Welcome to the Dairy Laying Project, the podcast Therese Makes History. Season 2, Episode 7. It's the 1st of January 2026, so Happy New Year to all the listeners. It's going to be a good year, folks. My primary sponsor for Season 2 is Ian Zanstra, a very experienced dairyman on the other side of the river from Piree. Season 2 would not be happening without Ian's support. I'm very grateful he stepped up. Thank you, Ian. Today we're in Okeeffe's Lane. We're still in Jaspers Brush, named after Denis O'Keeffe. He was born in 1865 in Tipperary, Ireland. He was the first to leave Ireland. He wasn't the eldest child though, and he was 14 years of age. A lot of courage. So he was known as Denis. He was born in the civil parish of Templeton. He was born in the district of Clogheen in County Tipperary on the 28th of July, 1865. This is official civil speak for the Catholic parish of Ballyporeen. It would have been his baptismal date. Now, he worked for his passage to Australia because he had no money. He arrived in about 1879, settling at Broughton Creek. We now know that as Berry, of course, off the Shoalhaven River. Apparently he arrived with 17 shillings in his pocket. He first lived and worked at Berry with the Mahoney family, who owned and or operated the butcher shop. He was paid a small wage as well as offal from the shop. And as a result of this experience, as an adult, obviously he couldn't even stand the thought of eating offal. He then went to work for John Stewart at Berry on a dairy farm, milking cows and shoveling coal for 10 shillings a week. The farm was north of the present motel, the Berry View Motel, just north of the town, on the old Princess Highway. It's a stone house and it still exists on this property. He spent time later as a labourer on road construction, and he worked on a farm near Kangaroo Valley. Once he'd saved some money, he arranged for his siblings to come out to Australia. First his brothers, and then his two sisters in 1886. Denis married Martha Winifred Timms of Jaspers Brush at Kangaroo Valley on the 15th of January 1896. They had 8 children. Denis left a leased property at Brogers Creek near Kangaroo Valley and purchased another at Jaspers Brush. This property he named Kiltankin after his Irish townland. Denis started dairying at Jaspers Brush. Denis made 2 land purchases. He purchased 66 acres in 1913. The land ran from the South Coast Road, now known as the Princess Highway, back a large block up to the railway. Then across the railway he purchased a further block of 90 acres and another block of 38 acres, and they met the Shoalhaven River the same year, 1913. Of interest, Samuel Timms purchased 39 acres in 1901 on the northern side of the highway. Formerly the land was owned by John Hughes. I mention Timms because Denis went on to marry Martha Timms. Martha Winifred Timms was born in 1870. She was the 4th of 10 children. Her parents were Samuel and Susanna Timms, who farmed for most of their lives. Martha's father was the first of the Timms family to be born in Australia in 1843 and was mayor of Broughton Creek, now known as Berry, in 1877. Her grandfather William Timms and uncle Gabrielle Timms were in charge of Henry Osborne's imported cattle at the exhibition in Market Square, Wollongong in 1843, when the first attempt was made to found the Illawarra Agricultural and Historical Society. She was known as Auntie Matt. I've got a bit of a treat, I feel, today. Today you're going to be hearing from Lyn Brandon. Lyn was the last Okeeffe born on the property. Her married name is Brandon. Of course, for those familiar, the original immigrants that settled at Guatemala. I'm so pleased to have met Lyn and to have secured her memories and stories of her ancestors and family. Kiltankin was the cattle stud name. The family excelled in breeding the Australian Illawarra Shorthorn. And here we go with Lyn. Lyn, what is your full name and former name and your year of birth?
My full name is Lynette Mary Brandon. I was Lyn O'Keeffe, and I was born on the 12th of February 1953.
Where were you born?
I was born in Nowra at Edmund House in Junction Street, up towards the showground in Nowra.
You grew up in Okeeffe's Lane. What was the name of the property?
Kiltankin.
Your parents' full names?
My parent was Patrick Vincent Okeeffe, and my mother was Leila Eileen Okeeffe.
And what was her former name?
Her former name was O'Mara.
And she grew up where?
Foxground.
Your father, Patrick?
Yes.
How many siblings did he have?
7. He was one of 8 children. 4 boys and 4 girls.
We'll go over their names.
Mary Susanna, known as Minnie Okeeffe. Winifred Ann. David Samuel. Joseph William. Elizabeth Alice. Dennis Charles. Patrick Vincent. And Bridget Imelda.
They all grew up at the property.
They did.
The name of the property was the same name as the stud.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit of history about where the name came from?
The name came from Ireland, where my grandfather came from, and it was just a little area like Jaspers Brush in Tipperary in Ireland. See, because I didn't know my grandparents.
You know, but you know their names?
Yes, I do.
So you were born on the property. You're probably the last person born on the property?
Of the Okeeffes, yes. Brought up on the property, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The property was run as the estate of Denis O'Keeffe, and Dad managed the farm, looked after the farm on behalf of the Okeeffe estate, yes.
So you lived there as he was the farm manager?
Yes, after my grandfather died.
How did that sit with all the other siblings? Were they living there or?
No, I think it sat all right with them because they knew that they were going to get their money eventually, and of course Dad had to pay them so much per month out of the farm income. They all got, except for Uncle Din, who got his share of what was called the dry run up on the western side of the railway line. That was his, so he never got anything else out of the farm because he was given that land. But the other 6 all had to get part of the money of the land, yeah.
Was your dad running a dairy there?
Yes.
What do you know about the dairy? Do you know, if we describe the dairy, can you do that? How many cows and the type of cows?
The cows were called AIS, which was Australian Illawarra Shorthorns. Now the name's been shortened to just being called Illawarras.
So you saw a lot of red cows?
Red cows, red and white cows, roan cows, yes.
How many cows?
I would say around about 90 at the time, yes.
The dairy, was it a walk-through?
Yes, well, as far as I know, it's still there now. And I think it was six walk-through.
They were breeding for a long time on the property.
Yes.
Let's just talk about your dad and breeding first.
Mm-hmm.
You were showing cattle at the local shows, your AIS cows.
Yes.
Do you know why they were such great breeders?
I think it takes a lot of time and effort and knowledge of cattle and breeding, and of course the whole other side of it is you want ones that are going to produce more milk, because that's the whole idea of the breeding, to breed the quality to produce more milk.
How much land was the estate?
I can't tell you that exactly, I don't know.
How much did it seem, do you know?
It seemed a lot to me because there was this side of the river, and then there was the river, and there was the flats across the river, and the cows went across a bridge to get to the other side of the farm. I can remember in one big flood that the bridge was washed away. I can remember watching it, the new bridge being built, and Gilfillans had the garage in Berry, and they had this big tow truck, and it was called Mighty Mouse, and Mighty Mouse was out there putting the sleepers across for the new bridge to be built. It was very exciting.
Well, how old were you when that happened?
5 or 6, but I remember it happening, yes, yeah.
In the late 50s?
Yes.
A lot of water, do you remember? Yeah, so the bridge, because I remember hearing about the bridge washing away.
Okay.
So that was on your land.
It was. The cows went across that bridge every day.
Was it a wooden bridge?
A wooden bridge, yes.
How long was that bridge?
I suppose about 12 foot long.
Was it over tracks or what? Why was the bridge there? To get you over the creek?
To get over the creek to the other side of the farm, yes.
How long is Okeeffe's Lane roughly, do you know?
No, I don't. I just know it was a long way when I had to walk up the end of the road to catch a taxi into school.
Was that a service supplied or you paid for it?
It was a service, like there was no buses. I would assume that Mum and Dad had to pay for it because there was a lot of kids from Jaspers Brush that caught the taxi into Berry, and the taxi picked you up every afternoon, dropped you at the end of the lane.
Do you recall the post office on the highway?
Yes, Callaghan's, yes.
Did you ever have to go to the post office?
I didn't ever have to go to the post. I think the mail was delivered with the milk truck.
You had your chooks?
We had chooks. We did have chooks, yes.
You grew your own food? You have a veggie garden and orchards?
Orchard in the chook yard, yes. And just a little veggie garden. My mum was always a good cook. There was always food on the table.
Yes. Do you remember them tending to any flowers or veggies?
No.
You grew up in the main house?
Yes.
Which was called?
Kiltankin. No, it was built before I was born. And no, I don't know who built it.
No, but your grandparents lived in that house?
They did, yes.
Had they moved from another house on the property?
Yes, they had. There was an older house out over the back, probably half a kilometre away from where the new house was built.
Why did they build a new house, do you think?
I think they outgrew it and the old house was too old and fallen down. It was very tiny. It eventually became my brother's bird aviary.
It would have been the original house, perhaps, when they moved there from Kangaroo Valley.
The little old one out the back, yes, it would have probably been there, yes. Yes, they didn't build that.
Must have been hard for them because...
I'd say it would have been, yes.
Big thing when they got the house built then.
Oh, would have been, yes. And I'm led to believe that when the house was built, it was one of the first in the district to have electricity connected to it. When my parents got married, they lived in that house as well. Me and my brothers and sister were all brought up in that house.
Was it on a septic?
It was on a septic, yes.
Do you always remember the septic yourself?
Absolutely.
No cans out the back or...?
No, I used to think later in life or when I got older how privileged I was with the people with the toilet out the back, and I never had that. I'd always had a septic system in my whole life.
Yeah, because we're looking at photos previously and everyone's dressed pretty well, aren't they? Like there must have been some money to breed.
Yes, I guess there must have been. I do know that it says when my grandfather passed away that there was still a mortgage on the farm for £400.
Quite a bit of money.
Quite a bit of money in those days, isn't it? Seeing that he passed away in 1932 to have a mortgage for £400.
What was your grandfather's full name?
Denis O'Keeffe.
Do you know what year he was born?
He was born in 1865.
And you were saying some previously interesting things about his journey here.
Yes.
He came by himself.
He did come by himself. He left Ireland at the age of 14. It took him 2 years to get here, but it was assumed that he didn't have any money, but he worked on the ship to pay his passage here. Then he must have saved some money because when he arrived here, he had 17 shillings in his pocket.
Did he have a connection to Australia to come here?
No.
Brave thing to do.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you know whether he had any siblings he left in Ireland? They came out later.
Yes, he brought them out later. He had 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. So he was one of 5. I know there was one called Pat and one called Roger.
So Patrick,
Yes. Well, it just says Pat, not Patrick.
Okay, Pat and Roger.
Yes.
When did he arrive when he first got here in the Shoalhaven region?
Well, he left there in 1865, so he was 2 years, so 1867 Denis O'Keeffe must have arrived in the Shoalhaven area.
And who did he marry?
Married Martha Timms.
And they got married in Kangaroo Valley.
They did, yes.
And she was known as
Auntie Matt, or Martha.
Auntie Matt or Martha.
Yes, to all her family she was Auntie Matt.
Do you know much about her side, like how many siblings she might have had?
She was one of 10 children. Father was Samuel Timms. Her mother was Susanna O'Grady.
So they got married in 1896, which I've written down here.
Yes, yes.
And Samuel was born in 1843.
Yes.
Now, he did quite a bit, didn't he? He was the mayor of Broughton Creek at some point.
Yes, in the late 1800s.
Okay, do you know much about what they said about Samuel?
I don't know much about him, but I do have a feeling that maybe he wasn't a very popular mayor.
Why do you say that?
Because I remember reading it somewhere in the museum.
Your grandfather christened the place?
Kiltankin, after the area he was brought up in Tipperary, Ireland.
Do you remember your grandfather?
No, my grandfather had passed away, and also my grandmother. They'd both passed away before I was born. I only know about family things said of them, yes.
Who was the horseman?
I have photos with the saddle. I think they all rode horses, but my Uncle Joe really did love his horses. Absolutely.
But your father would have been on a horse?
Yes, but I don't ever remember seeing him ride a horse very much.
It's become mechanised, which is probably your memory?
Yes, we always had a tractor and things like that. And there was a horse, we had a horse, but my brother was the one that rode the horse. Ray was the one that left school to work on the farm, and so it was Dad and my brother Ray, and Ray was the one that always rode the horse to get the cattle and...
To get them into the dairy?
Yes, get them into another paddock or rotate paddocks, yes. It was always Ray on the horse, I don't ever remember seeing my father on a horse.
Where did Uncle Joe go?
Uncle Joe became a policeman and he was in Sydney and he lived in Ashfield.
Yeah, do you know where they all went?
I do.
Because there's 8 of them. Your dad became the farm manager.
His brother Denis, Uncle Den, he stayed in Jaspers Brush on the other part of the property that then became his.
So that was further down the lane toward the highway, was it?
Yes. Kiltankin was right at the end of the lane. Uncle Den was the first property on the left-hand side going into Okeeffe's Lane, yeah.
So Kiltankin was at the end where the water, like closest to the river?
Yes.
Do you know how much land Denis had down there that was the dry run?
No, I don't. So Auntie Min, who was Mary Susanna, she moved to Sydney and she married Patrick Kennedy, who was in the army. Married in 1924 and lived at Canterbury. The next one was Winifred Ann, and she was known as Auntie Ann. She was born at Brogers Creek. She married Michael Nolan at Randwick in 1929. They lived at Waverley and they had 2 children, Claire and Raymond Nolan. Raymond was a solicitor and he lived at Dubbo. Then there was David O'Keeffe. I don't know why or how it happened, but he started work at a bank in Murwillumbah. Then he became a fireman with the New South Wales Fire Brigade, and he lived in Sydney. He never married. He passed away in 1957. And then there was Joseph, Uncle Joe. He married Rita McNamara in 1931 at the Catholic Church at Lewisham, and they had 3 children, John, Patricia and Michael. They lived at Clissold Street in Ashfield for most of their married life. Uncle Joe was a police officer at Ashfield, Burwood and Regent Street in the city. The next one is Elizabeth, Auntie Bet. She was a nurse and she was a sister at Kenmore Psychiatric Home in Goulburn, and then she transferred to Mount Street, St Margaret's in Ryde. She contacted tuberculosis and passed away. Then there's Dennis Charles, my Uncle Din, who lived up the other end of Okeeffe's Lane. So he stayed in the district. And there was my dad, who never left. Then my Auntie Bridge, who was she was actually born at Kiltankin. She never ever married, but she was employed as a housemaid at Trinity Grammar College at Stanmore. She didn't have very good health, and after having a kidney removed, died on the 13th of August 1965. She lived at my Auntie Min's house. Auntie Min looked after her for years at her home, and she was buried at Rookwood Cemetery. And my Auntie Min later on was buried beside her at Rookwood.
So your dad, do you think he felt responsible to take over the farm, or was he just keen to?
He was very keen to, but I don't think my grandmother gave him any other choice. That was it. She did rule with an iron fist, as my eldest brother used to say. I couldn't possibly tell you what he used to call her.
That's fine. So Martha was from Kangaroo Valley.
Yes.
Obviously the Tims.
Yes. Very controlling. No, Martha passed away the year before I was born.
So your siblings now, let's just get to them, because you're a love child, it would seem. Who are your siblings?
My eldest brother, Ray Okeeffe, Max, my sister Dell. Her name was actually Maria Dell, but she was always known as Dell. And then I came along 9 years after Dell. They've all passed away now.
Yes. Do they all stay in the area?
No, when my eldest brother Ray retired, he moved to the North Coast, a place called Woolgoolga, just north of Cross Harbour.
What did he do for a living?
After Dad sold the farm at Jaspers Brush and we moved into town, Ray worked for the bakers in Berry for a while. And he really didn't like it, and then he convinced Dad to buy another farm, so we bought another farm at Maru Meadow. Then when Ray got married, Ray and Trish lived in the house on that farm at Maru Meadow, and Dad drove every day from Berry backwards and forwards to the farm.
When did your father sell the property?
Early 1960s, early 60s.
And your next sibling?
Max.
What did he do?
Went away to college, to St Gregory's College in Campbelltown, and then when he finished school he came home and he worked on the farm for a little while. Then he worked at the post office in Berry. Then he left that and he went to work at Graham Park as an inseminator. Then he got transferred from Graham Park to another subsidiary at Camden, and he was doing the same thing as an inseminator, and that's when he met his wife, Carolyn, who lived in Moss Vale. And they got married in Moss Vale, and then Max bought property at Exeter. Then he started breeding cattle. He started breeding Shorthorns, that he was very successful at doing that. My sister, Dell, never moved away from the area. She lived at home with Mum and Dad for a long time. Dell had a little bit of a disability, and she worked for many years for Kevin and Dawn Robinson, who had the trotters from Berry. Well, Dell worked at there because they had a lot of children. Dell worked there at their house as I don't know what you call her, a housekeeper, or doing the washing and the ironing and making the beds, and maybe trying to keep some of those children under control. Then eventually Dell married and she moved to Bomaderry, and Dell passed away about 3 years ago.
And here we are with you.
Here we are with me.
And what about you, Lyn?
Dad sold the property in the 60s sometime, yes. So then we moved to 3 Queen Street, Berry, and I stayed there until I got married, and then I moved from there to Ford Street in Berry, and then I moved 15 months ago from Ford Street to where I am now. I moved after my husband passed away.
And your husband's full name?
Bruce Clifford Brandon. Everybody knew him as Cork Brandon in Berry.
And what did he do for a living?
In his younger days, he did a lot of things, but then at his last, he worked for 28 years as a bar supervisor at Shoalhaven Heads Bowling Club.
So you'd have an affiliation with that club?
Not now, but Bruce used to. For years, every year that it was his anniversary of when he retired, he went out there to have a beer, just so that they wouldn't forget him. We got married at St Patrick's Catholic Church in Berry in 1979.
And you have some kids that are now adults?
Yes, Matthew and Glenn.
So your son,
Matthew,
where does he live and what's he doing? He lives in the area and he's a cattle breeder.
he breeds Shorthorn cattle, yes, loves them, has had lovely success, and it's really only a hobby. It's not his full-time job, but he lives for his cattle. Every day he's with his cattle. Yeah.
I think I see him on Coolangatta Road. Would that be right?
You probably could do. His cattle are out there right on Coolangatta Road to Agar's Lane.
Yeah.
Goes down to, and all those cattle in there, from there to Agar's Lane. That's Matthew's cattle, yes.
He is the man we see.
With the hat on.
And your other son?
Glenn, he's not one bit interested in cattle, and he's a real estate agent for Ray White and Nara.
Your father, Patrick,
Yes,
ran the property.
yes,
The land was sold in the early 60s.
yes.
Where was the property in Maru?
Was a Muller. It belonged to Jacob Muller. Lammon's Lane, from Lammon's Lane down to Feeney's.
Yes.
That land there on the left-hand side of the highway heading towards Nara. In there's still big silos, and that is still there. That was the property that Mum and Dad bought. I don't really know why, but I think they only kept the property for about 10 or 12 years and then sold it.
And your older brother was helping with that property, was he?
Yes, he was living there.
Did the Mullers sell land or was that a separate property?
That was a separate property. It belonged to, his name was Jake Muller. And I don't know whether he was Albert's brother or a cousin of Albert's, but I'm not sure. But it was Jake Muller that Dad bought the farm off. Mm-hmm.
Can you describe, did the house change much since your grandparents that you grew up in?
No, not at all.
Can you describe the house for me?
It was very big, deemed to be elite, substantial for at the time that it was built. It had a wonderful big long hallway from the front door right down through the 3 bedrooms leading off that big hallway. The bathroom was off the hallway. There was a little alcove where the telephone was. And then on the other right-hand side was a massive big lounge room that had a big bay window with seating like a seat. And I remember I used to love the curtains that went across because I would play like as if I was on a stage and here I am dancing and pull the curtain back. Everybody had to. Then you went out from there.
Everybody had to
stand to attention and watch me.
watch your performances.
Yes. And then out from the end of the hallway was the dining room, and it was huge. When Mum and Dad sold the farm, the dining room table had to stay there because they couldn't get it out because it sat 12 people at it. And then off the dining room was a very big kitchen with a little kitchen table with the wood fire stove. Out the back, down the steps, was another building with 3 separate little rooms, and that's where the farm help. The man that was employed, John Maguire was his name, but he had a limp and everybody called him Stepper, and he used to live in one of those rooms out there. And the laundry was out there as well. Yeah, I remember it all.
Do you remember the laundry, how your mum had washed? Do you remember the system?
It was always a copper. I guess, yeah, she did have some type of a washing machine, but I can't recall what it was. But I know all the sheets and all the yucky, dirty dairy clothes all went in the copper. And a hand wringer rung out, and you went out through the back fence, and the clothesline was there. And it wasn't a rotary, it was a long clothesline, and you propped it up with a prop to prop it up, and that's where the clothes.
So was there a piano there?
Oh yes, there was a piano, always a piano in my mum's life. My mum was a very good pianist, like dance music and could play anything. She'd read music and play. She just loved, always. I grew up knowing all my life all the songs, and because Mum used to play everything. It was wonderful, always on the piano.
You always hanging around the piano, dancing?
Yes, we had a lovely time around the piano, always.
As a little kid, you there?
Yes. Dressing up and twirling around, and it was wonderful.
When you talk about the songs, can you rattle a few off?
Well, she could play anything. Like I can remember her playing Winifred Apple's Black and White Rag, like absolutely could play it wonderfully, and then just all sorts of dance music, whatever you play. People are doing the Pride of Erin or the barn dance. But she had suitcases and suitcases full of sheet music that all went to my nephew who lives in Goulburn, and he's a very talented musician.
What's his name?
His name is Gregory Okeeffe.
Went to the right place then. So tell me about her playing around the district. What did she must have played in church and dance halls?
She played the organ at Bury Catholic Church. She always used to play mostly for every wedding that was there. I can remember hearing an interview from ABC, interviewed her years ago, and I don't ever remember what happened to the tape, but there used to be dances in Gerringong, and her and her sister would go to the dances with their father on the horse and cart, and they'd have supper. And you'd go out to the supper room. Everyone would go to the supper room to have their supper. But my mum this one night didn't, and she got up onto the stage as a 13 or 14-year-old and started playing the piano. Her father was not impressed, but everybody else was impressed because they said, "Bill, leave her alone, let her keep playing."
And what was her father's name?
William O'Mara.
And do you remember her mum's name?
Yes, her mum was Alice O'Mara.
Foxground.
Yes.
Did you ever go to Foxground and see relatives?
No. After my mum and dad got married, my grandfather and grandmother moved back to Cobargo. They came from Cobargo and then they moved back to Cobargo. My grandmother passed away down in Cobargo, and then Granddad moved back to Bury and built a house in Clarence Street, Bury, just opposite the primary school.
So your maternal side you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
Now, your mum also played at dances, and you mentioned Vonnie Muller, who passed recently. Can you talk a little bit about the dances and...
Well, Vonnie used to sing at a lot of weddings, so Mum used to accompany her on the organ at a lot of the weddings at the church. Mum then used to play dance music, and all the Walshes that Vonnie was, a Walsh, were very musical. They had their own band when they were younger, but then in later years, Vonnie's brother Frank used to play the drums, and he used to accompany Mum on dance music, as Mum playing the piano and him playing the drums, and sometimes there was another one that would play the saxophone, and that was the dance music.
I can just hear a buzz.
Oh, that's my fridge.
Oh, yeah, hang on. Did you know the Walshes?
My mum used to help Frank Walsh a lot when they had the youngest child, Mark, and Jean wasn't well and Mark wasn't well, and they were in Sydney Hospital for a long time, and that's when my mum and dad had the farm at Maru Meadow. When Dad would go to the farm, he would drop Mum off at Frank and Jean Walsh's, and she would cook for Frank because Jean was away, and do the cooking and look after the children, and then when Dad was coming home from the farm, he'd pick Mum up and away we go, and she did that for a long time while Jean was very ill.
Real community-minded people.
Yes.
Well, I mean the Walshes.
Yeah.
You would have been close.
Friends, yes, yeah, for sure.
Would have seen them at church.
Yes, yes.
Is there anything more to say about your mum's music? It sounds beautiful.
Not a great deal more to say. She just, she wasn't a professional or anything. She just loved playing and could play very well.
And what sort of person was she?
Oh, my mum was a very caring person, a very loyal person, and she was just wonderful. My mum was really, really good person, very well-respected lady.
And your dad, Patrick, he was on the farm, running the farm.
A typical Irish, probably pretty stubborn.
Was he a drinker?
An occasional beer, and he liked his scotch, but don't put water in it and don't put ice in it, don't ruin it. But that was only occasionally. There was always, you wouldn't call him a drinker, no.
So you're at school. What's happening in the lane? Tell me, you're walking home from Jaspers Brush School up the lane.
No, I didn't go to Jaspers Brush School. I went to St Patrick's in Bury.
But your brothers went there?
No.
Do they ever go to Jaspers Brush?
No.
Who's in that 51 photo?
Dennis, my cousin.
Oh, your cousin Denis?
Yes, went to school at Jaspers Brush. My brothers went to school in Bury for a little while, for a time.
Where at?
St Patrick's.
So there was a school there?
Yes.
It's not there now though, is it?
No. It closed in about 1977 or 78. It is a primary school. That primary school building now was moved and it's up at Berry Primary School, the actual St Patrick's School building. My brother Ray used to board at the convent at St Patrick's because there was no way in and out of town at that time, so Ray used to board there from Monday to Friday and come home on the weekends. Then later on there was a taxi service or a bus service, whatever, that went to Nowra. So then both Ray and Max went to St Michael's at Nowra. My sister Del went to school at St Patrick's in Berry, and then she went to Nowra High School. I went to school at St Patrick's in Berry, and then I went from there to St Michael's High School in Nowra.
What sort of nuns were teaching at St Patrick's?
Brown St Joseph nuns.
The Joeys?
The Joeys, yes.
They okay?
Oh, they were wonderful. And then I went to St Michael's and they were Good Samaritan nuns and they were different. Right, where the Catholic Church is in Berry and it faces south, the front of it's facing south onto Albert Street. Straight across from the gates there, from where the preschool is, that was part of St Patrick's School, where the preschool is down to the highway, right down where all those townhouses are. That was all the land for St Patrick's School and the building was on that land, and then it was sold to raise funds for closed because diminishing numbers of students, and then they decided to sell it to raise funds for St Michael's Nowra Parish. A lot of elderly people weren't very happy about it. And the Department of Education, I think it was, actually then removed the school building from there and it was transported up to Berry Primary School and it's on the land up there. I'm not certain what it's used for, but it's definitely up there. Go and have a look, you'll see it.
I will.
George Street End.
So, in the lane, who had the properties in Okeeffe Lane and who your neighbours were?
Our closest neighbour was on the opposite side of the road, which was Bill and Frank Alsizer. On the other side of us, down towards the other side where the creek went around, was Lindsay Cochrane. Before that, it was Rixon's, and Lindsay Cochrane bought the farm from Percy Rixon. Now, Percy Rixon was my Auntie Una's parents. That's all there was. Cochrane's, Okeeffe's and Alsizer's in Okeeffe's Lane. That was it. And then Richard Cochrane later on owned Alsizer's farm, and I'm pretty certain that it was Richard Cochrane that sold that farm to the Ray and Colleen Timms, and their son Paul is still there now. But there's lots been broken up and that acres sold off now. But who else lives there now, I have no idea.
Who bought your land?
Originally, the first people that bought somebody from Jamberoo, and I can't remember their name, and then they sold it to Doug and Beattie Long, that lived there for years. That was, I don't know whether you know Jeannie Rumble, David and Jean Rumble. Well, that's where she was brought up. And then they retired off the farm and sold it to Keith and Gloria Carter. Then I can't remember how long ago they sold it, and who bought it from then, I don't know. But I don't think it was continued to be run as a dairy farm.
At the end of the lane, there's that wedding thing called Jaspers.
That's where that was the primary school. That was Jaspers Brush School. My cousin Denis, he went to school there.
What happened to that land?
Denis's land. Denis passed away a few years ago. Within the last 10 years. It wouldn't be 10 years since he passed away. And so his wife inherited the land. She wasn't really a farmer. He had sold a lot of it off to Turfco. He only kept about 5 acres, and the house is still there. And Marilyn then didn't stay on the property, but her son-in-law, I believe it is, King, I can't remember his first name, him and his wife live there now.
Is he a king from over the river or?
Number. Because where Turfco is now...
Which side are we... Well, the north or the south? They're on both sides now.
I know, but Denis, my cousin Denis, eventually owned both sides, and Turfco bought the western side from Denis because he owned that, and then when he sold that off, he sold it to Turfco, and then on the Okeeffe's Lane side, Denis eventually sold off more and more land to Turfco, which you will see now is all Turfco.
Devitt grew up in that old house there on the northern side. So
that's right.
Who owned? Well, did the Devitts own that?
The Devitts owned that. My husband lived there for a long time because he was related to the Devitts, and they lived in that house. That's how come my husband was at Jaspers Brush School.
So the Brandons are related to the Devitts?
Yes. But that's not where he was brought up. He was brought up in Guatemala. He used to pride himself on going to 3 schools: Guatemala School, Jaspers Brush School and Berry Primary School.
Well, he was a local.
Yes, yes.
A dairy farm at Guatemala?
Yes.
Who were his parents?
Lyn and Lyn Brandon.
Where did you meet your husband?
I knew him forever. He was similar age to my brothers. I used to laugh that when I went to school, he used to work at the baker's and he used to deliver the pies on Tuesday. Just always around. I just always knew him. Yes, yeah, always. He went away to work. He lived in New Zealand for a while, and then when he came back from New Zealand, he went and worked in Dampier when they were first opening up there in Port Hedland. And then he came back and we got together and got married and happily ever after till 2 years ago when he passed away.
When did you realise to actually get together?
I wanted to go to the Berry Show ball and I had nobody to take me or to be my partner. A very good friend who I used to call Uncle Bob said, "Come on, Court, why don't you just go take her to the ball? She really wants to go." And so that's how it started. He took me to the ball and that was it.
What did you wear?
I probably made my own.
How did you learn to sew?
You had to do it at school, didn't you? I don't do it now.
Were you good?
No, I could make clothes though, but not anymore.
What did you do for a living? Did you work?
I did work. I worked in the bank in Berry that was called the CBC Bank of Sydney, that then later became the NAB Bank, that's down on the corner in Berry, next to the hotel. I worked there for a while. After that, I worked at Berry Pharmacy. I worked for Lansul. I worked for Lansul for 39 years. Lance bought a pharmacy in Nowra, but had a manager in Berry, and I stayed working at Berry until he sold the pharmacy in Berry. And then when he sold the pharmacy in Berry, I went to work for him in Nowra, and I worked there for him until I retired.
So you would have seen a lot of changes in Berry?
Oh, an awful lot of change, yes, yes.
What are some of those changes, that you want to talk about?
Just a whole different dramatic, and it's good, like there's car parks there now. There wasn't car parks out the back where the car park is now. When I worked in the pharmacy, was just long, tall grass and a little track through it. There's coffee shops everywhere in Berry now, but I can remember working in pharmacy and people would come in and say, "Is there anywhere where we could get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee?" Well, if you go next door to Bill Bramley's, Beryl will probably make you a cuppa, but you'd have to wait for Bill to move the bags of potatoes off the tables and chairs for you to sit down, but that's about the only place you'll get a cup of coffee.
What era are we talking about there? 70s? Or?
Well, that'd be in the 70s, yes. Yeah, at that stage there were 3 butcher shops in town, and now there's only one.
Who owned those? And where were they?
Atkins, which is now Mountainside Meats, up where IV Coffee is, at the front of that was next door to the chemist shop, was Rudd Holland's butcher shop. And then further up, next to the Almeida 10, where the local, coffee shop is now, was Williams's butcher shop.
Big on meat in this town.
Must have been, because 3 of them survived. Yes, and then there was another grocery store next door. That was Frank Willis's, was a grocery shop. Then it became a Mitre 10, and now it's a dress shop. But that's what it was before that. The 2 hotels have always been the same.
Top pub?
Top pub and bottom pub, of course.
Did you drink at either of them?
Yes.
Both or?
Both, on and off, but mainly used to do a lot at the bottom pub. I sold raffle tickets there every Friday night for about 20 to 25 years with help for Berry Hockey Club and Berry Cricket Club. I was very involved with hockey. I was president of Berry Hockey Club for something like 25, 26 years. I was also president of South Coast Hockey Association for 18 years. So, of course, we did home and away, and it was all north, and so you'd go and play hockey at Jamboree or come home. We'd all arrange, we'll meet at the Bottom pub and have drinks after the game. So I did drink a bit at the Bottom Hotel.
The hockey club, was that both genders or women or...?
It was women. It's women. Later on, in later years, there was a couple of men's teams, but not now. But next year, it'll be 80 years, and Berry Hockey Club has been going continuously for 80 years. So they're planning that maybe they might have a lovely big ball in the Berry School of Arts to mark 80 years of Berry Hockey Club.
So you were a bit of a hockey player, were you?
I was a bit of a hockey player, yes.
What position?
Left half.
Some of your mates that played hockey?
Well, probably my very best friend, who was president when I started, was a lady called Merle McPhee, and we went to hockey for years and years together. But I have got a lot of my friends are hockey friends, and there was only 5 life members of Berry Hockey Club. There was Merle McPhee and then myself. We were the only 2 for a long time. And then there's my very good friend Debbie Wolford is a life member, Jenny Warden's a life member, and Jan Richards is a life member. And then about 3 years ago, the current president, Jodie Sims, was made a life member as well. And that's the whole total of life members for Berry Hockey Club.
What was the colour of the uniform?
Of course, black and white. Berry Magpies, yeah, just Berry Hockey Club, Magpies, black and white. Old days, everything was black and white in Berry.
Where did you play in Berry? Where were your grounds?
When I first started, it was at the St Patrick's Catholic School, because it was a big area, big grounds, and the hockey fields were there. Then down at the showground where the caravan park is, previous to that, it was the hockey field. Previous to that, it was just a swampy area, and the island there was called Bamboo Island in the middle, and worked with the council to convert it into a hockey field, a permanent hockey field of Berry Hockey Club. Oh, and we used to think it was wonderful because there were lights there. We had lights put on and we could train on it. Previous to that, we trained on the football field, but we could only use the trotting light tracks because the hockey club couldn't afford to pay for the big lights. That's it. That's where the hockey field was in Berry.
When did you stop playing?
Long time. I'm old now, a long time ago, yeah.
So are you involved today?
No. I still know what's going on, and I'm still no Berry. I promised my husband that I would give up hockey when he retired. So the year that he retired, I didn't stand for re-election at South Coast Hockey Association or with Berry, because I'd promised him I'd give it up when he retired.
Let's talk about your father, Patrick, and his connection to the Berry Show Society. You've got a photo that you showed me, a portrait of your father in the 50s. Tell me a bit about his contribution to that society and his roles. His role? He always showed cattle at Berry Show. Everything around our family showed Berry Show time. Everything revolved around. Everything else stopped because of the Berry Show. Like, Dad was president of Berry Show Society at one stage in the 50s, I think it was. There's a big photo on the wall at where the meeting rooms are with Dad and all the committee men, and that would have the year on it. Then later on, he was elected as president again, and that he was the first one at that time that had ever been re-elected to be president twice. But of course it's happened again since then. My mother was also a life member of Berry Show Society, so they were both life members of Berry Show Society. Your dad was a judge of cattle? My dad was he was a judge of cattle. He judged at many shows all around the state of New South Wales, as well as he judged at every capital city show in Australia. Kiltankin. The Kiltankin breed. Yes. You have a collection of photographs here, but let's just read one of them that we'll photograph, if you don't mind. There's one here, beautiful Illawarra, and it just read through the awards.
Okay, this is Kiltankin Jester. 3rd Sydney Royal, 1942. 4th Sydney Royal, 1943. Reserve Champion, Sydney Royal, 1947. Reserve Champion at Berry, 1947. Champion at Berry, 1949. Champion at Berry at Nara, 1949. And Champion at Berry, 1950.
Let's just have a read of this beautiful bull.
Okay, this is Salute. Champion at Berry, 1940. Wollongong, 1944. 3rd at Sydney Royal, 1941. Reserve Champion at Wollongong, 1940. Dapto, 1941. And Berry, 1941.
So when you talk about breeding Illawarra Shorthorns, it started when your grandfather started in O'Keeffe's Lane.
Yes.
The Illawarra Shorthorn. They would have been close to the Walshes, do you think? Of course, they did develop the breed, the twins.
Yes, my father used to help them when they started off, Tom and Ted, and they lived at Far Meadow. I can remember going out there when they started their Illawarras and Dad going out there giving them some advice.
There would have been some Kangaroo Valley connection as well, because they had cows at Kangaroo Valley.
That's exactly right, yes.
Yeah, so what am I right about? Tell me what you know.
I had a feeling that there could be some connection or relation with them because they were all brought up in Kangaroo Valley, but I don't know what it is for sure. But then Walsh's also had place up at Billawonga. Tom and Ted had a place at Billawonga, and they used to have their cattle up there. That was after they moved from Far Meadow to Jamberoo, but they used to use the Billawonga property as their dry run.
So there was connection there with breeding.
I'm sure so, yes.
Yeah, there would have had to have been. And because your grandmother was the Tims?
Yes, that's right.
They all would have known each other?
Absolutely.
That's why these bulls are so beautiful to look at.
Oh, thank you. They'd be pleased to hear you say that.
So Graham's Park, did your bulls ever become...
No.
They had their own bulls. Where were they getting their AI from?
Yeah, they used to buy bulls. They used to buy really good stud bulls that people wanted to get rid of, and they would buy them and they would have them there so that then they collected the semen.
Which brother worked at Graham Park?
Max.
Yeah, so they had their own bulls.
Yes.
Were they all local bulls that you know of?
No, not all local bulls, no. They would have cattle that they would call teasers. When they were on heat, they would bring them into the yard, they would bring the bulls up. The bulls would go into a crush, and then the bulls would think that they were going to mount these heifers, and then they would collect. The semen they would never get to reach them, and the semen was collected. And then went into the laboratory, because there was a laboratory out there, and they would, I don't know how process the semen, but it was frozen in liquid nitrogen, and I think it's still done that way today.
And what was your brother doing?
My brother was an inseminator. He used to go out. Farmers would ring up and say that their cows were on heat, and they'd lock them in, keep them separate, and then the inseminators would go out and inseminate them.
Did they have a choice, a magazine choice of what AI?
I don't know, but I guess they did. They would have known what breed or who they want to breed to, yes.
So that would have changed it in your home. Did you use Graham Park, your dad, for AI?
No.
You had your own bulls all the time?
Yes.
Do you remember any bull names while you were growing up?
Yes, Salute wouldn't have been around by the time I was born, but I remember because these were always on the wall in the dining room at Kiltankin, and then they've always been around, yes.
And there were more when you were growing up?
Oh, of course, there was always, yes, always.
So did you have bull yards on the property?
Bull paddock, they were called, yes.
Right. Did they have their little shelters? Was it like a shelter, or they just had paddocks?
No, they just in paddock.
In a paddock?
Yeah.
Any close calls? They could get a bit cranky.
No. My father was too good a cattleman to let that happen.
Did Who was collecting your milk? Do you know how many cans you were putting out?
I know it was Ray Strong was collecting our milk, but he was the milk carrier. I remember my mother saying when it was going to school time, hurry up. If you hurry up and get your shoes on, you can get a ride up the end of the lane with Strongy, but if you're not ready, you know he won't wait. It was milk cans. I think we were probably having 5 or 6 cans a day. I think they only came once a day. I don't think they came twice a day to collect the milk. But I'm not certain how they kept it cool from the evening milking, because I know the milk was picked up in the mornings. Must have had a cool room, yes.
Did you ever go on the milk run?
No.
What did you think of Ray Strong?
Well, I was only young going to primary school then, but then knew him later on because my husband was very involved in Bury football. He was a life member of Bury Football Club, and so therefore we had a lot of association with Ray as well through the football club, yes.
Lovely man.
Lovely man, yes. And he lived a wonderful life, and it was so sad he didn't get to Sydney to get his OAM. Yes.
So many people have said that.
Yes. Didn't have good health for a long time, yeah.
What about Evelyn?
Evelyn, yes, lovely lady. Wonderful sewer.
Were you a member of any other groups?
No. I was in View Club for a little while, but not very long. Hockey took up my whole life. At one stage when they, I think it was called St Patrick's Community Group, I was secretary of it for a while, but that was when it first started, like years ago, but I'm not involved in any of that anymore.
Let's just hear about when your parents got married.
Yes.
And where and the significance of that.
They got married at St Patrick's Catholic Church in Bury in 1937, and they were the first couple married in that church. It had been built and opened the previous 12 months ago in 1936, and my mum and dad were married in May 1937 in that church. Yeah.
Do you remember your favourite parish priest?
Probably I really liked Father Bramley, and I really liked Father Dowdell, who married Bruce and I. He was very nice, yes.
And the St Joey nuns that you had,
Mm-hmm.
How many were teaching at the primary school?
2.
What were their names? Do you recall?
Sister Sebastian and Sister Clematis, I think her name was, or something like that anyway. There was only 2 rooms, 2 big rooms, and the little room, we called it the little room, had kindergarten, first class, second class, third class, and 1 teacher, 1 nun. And then the other room was the big room, and that had 4th, 5th and 6th class in it.
What was the colour of your uniform?
Yeah, navy blue tunic with white blouse.
And you had school shoes?
Yes. I can remember when my eldest brother got married, and he got married in March, and school went back in February, and I was most put out because I had to wear school shoes to his wedding because they've only just been bought new. They're only a month old, and you're not getting another pair of shoes.
Did any of your father's siblings come and visit you?
Oh, yes.
Were you close to them, aunties and uncles?
Yes, all the time. My Uncle Joe, a lot of school holidays. I went to Sydney and stayed at their place in school holidays. At my Auntie Min's in Sydney in school holidays. It was good.
You got to see a bit outside the area.
That's right.
One question, just reflecting now, the cattle breeding has stayed throughout the families.
Yes, I think it's in their blood, yes.
Your son still uses the breeding name?
The stud name of Kiltankin, yes, he breeds pole shorthorns and he calls them Kiltankin. Yeah, the stud name is Kiltankin Shorthorns. My great niece, who lives up on the north coast, also shows Illawarra's dairy cattle, becoming very successful, yes.
What's her name?
Her name is Nicole Okeeffe. Ray, my brother Ray's granddaughter. She is married, but she still goes under the name Nicole Okeeffe.
Well, you've got Okeeffe's Lane named after your grandfather.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Do you know when that occurred?
No, I don't. I do know at one stage, after Mum and Dad sold the farm, that it got changed to Cochrane's Lane, And my Auntie Una and Uncle Din were really not happy about that, and then got it changed back to Okeeffe's Lane through the council.
Now, Una recalls where the name Jaspers Brush came from. In 1997, they had a reunion at Jaspers Brush School.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
And they were taught where Jasper Brush came from.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Your Auntie Una is one of the links to establishing where the name Jasper Brush came from.
Oh, okay.
Because that person was employed by Berry Estate to clear the land and camped on your property.
Oh, right, okay.
Or in that vicinity.
There you go. So you know that I had no idea about.
And that is from Una's mouth.
Okay.
Because they were taught at school where the name came from.
Mm-hmm.
And of course not many remember. Pam Coles remembered it was an Aboriginal name, which it is. But yeah, we know that Jasper Brush was the person that cleared the land there, which makes complete sense.
Okay.
But
right.
anyway, we're just getting that confirmed. That brings us to the end of Lyn's recording, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about the naming of Jaspers Brush. Una Okeeffe, who married Denis O'Keeffe, Una sounds like she was quite active. When she attended the reunion of the school in 1997, she spoke quite a bit about Jaspers Brush history. She states that Jasper Brush was a man employed by the Berry Estate to clear the land, often camped on their land, and during gardening and ploughing, bits and pieces from campsites from either Jasper Brush or other Aboriginals travelling through have resurfaced. Remember, in the 40s and 50s, as part of the school's curriculum, they were taught where the name Jaspers Brush had come from. And this is her memory. This has been cited in a number of newspaper articles and journals relating to the former railway station. I'm referring to 3 sources. The first source I discovered a description of the name Jaspers Brush. The Royal Australian Historical Society Journal, Volume 13, Part 2, in 1927, wrote quite an extensive article and listings of the names of railway stations in New South Wales, with their meaning and origin. The article was written by a C.A. Irish, and it states, under Jaspers Brush, the railway was named after a former resident called Jasper Brush. Now, this information was sourced from a newspaper article in the Labor Daily in 1926 that mentions some of those railway names. The article is headed Here We Are. I'll read it directly to you. Published on the 8th of April 1926, and it's relating to names that reflect Aboriginal words. Jaspers Brush, in brackets Illawarra, which we fell under at the time, after an early resident, Jasper Brush. The name should be Jasper Brushes rather than Jaspers Brush. They say that in a few of the articles. And it's said again in local native names that the Nowra Leader printed in 1929 on page 6 of the September 6 edition. So we're currently getting the John Ingold Jaspers Post idea that's currently being reviewed by Shoalhaven Family History Society, and I've provided a report that highlights the inaccuracies of that myth, and they will be making a decision on my report in a couple of weeks. So Jaspers Brush seems to be okay by me because they also have Jaspers Mount, Jaspers Creek, and I think we've uncovered the closest theory possible. And with more time, we may find more information, but at the moment, that's where it sits. Jasper Brush was employed by the Berry Estate, an Aboriginal person, an Aboriginal man who cleared the land in that region and was given a European nickname, as we often do. That brings us to the end of episode 7. If you have any more information, facts that is, relating to what I've discussed, you can always send me a message through my website, theresesweeney.com.au, or email me at tsweeneyinc, I-N-K, at gmail.com. We're getting closer to the closure of those lanes up between Bomaderry and Berry, so we've got 3 episodes left for season 2, which will be the completion of the project from Bomaderry to Berry. It's taken a lot of work, but I've really enjoyed meeting the farming community. So I'm signing off, and I'll let you know when episode 8 is coming in a couple of weeks and who that may be. Until then, keep safe, and thanks for listening.